Just acknowledging that this year has been a lot, but even before this year, sometimes it's just too much. It's just too much. So lace up your hiking boots, put on your sneakers, get outside. If it's a walk, if it's a run, if it's climbing a mountain. And when you get to the top and when you get wherever it is you are, just open both hands, not one, both, and let it go. Let it go. And don't take it back. And if you do take it back, which is totally human, let it go again. And just allow all of this stress and anxiety and frustration and craziness, especially of this past year, just let it go. And get back on your team and know that no matter what you're doing in this life, it's enough, you are enough, and you are okay.
Hello boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this is Nishant and welcome to the Nishant Garg Show. The mission of the show is to help you live mindful days, and my job on the show is to invite the world-class experts to extract the practices, routines and habits to help you live a fulfilled and abundant life. Today's guest is Therese Plummer. Therese is an actor and award-winning audiobook narrator working in New York City. She has recorded over 350 audiobooks for various publishers. She won the 2019 Audie Award for her book on the multicast Sadie by Courtney Summers for Macmillan Audio. Therese is the voice of Maya Hansen in the Marvel graphic motion comic Iron Man Extremis, Dr. Fennel in Pokemon, and for various Yu-Gi-Oh characters. She is the television guest star roles on The Good Wife, Law and Order SVU, and the series Virgin River for Netflix. In this episode, Therese shares her story when she hit her bottom with drugs and alcohol at age 20 and challenges she had as an adolescent and about her recovery and much, much more. Her voice is beautiful. I'm thrilled by her storytelling art and I'm sure you will love it too. Please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Therese. Therese, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I thought I would start with something very funny. How would your family describe what you do for a living?
My husband actually told me, you need to call your mother and thank her for encouraging you to get into voiceovers and use your beautiful voice, because this has just been such a great, great experience. My mom is the one that encouraged me to record audiobooks. And I remember looking at her and being like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to be a real actor, a professional actor. I had no idea that this was going to be such a challenging and amazing acting career, just in a form of voice. So my family would describe it as, my sister talks pretty. She tells stories and she acts out all the characters. So basically she has a career where she gets to be crazy and silly, and she's great at it. My family's very supportive, very sweet.
Where did you grow up?
We grew up, I'm one of 8 kids, 4 girls, 4 boys, and we grew up in Middletown, New York. And then we moved to Pennsylvania when I was about 10 years old. And so I'm an East Coast baby. And today we've got a bunch of us on the East Coast. We've got a brother in Texas. My parents are both still alive and married, and they're in Delaware. And I've got a sister in Connecticut. Oh my God. And I think that's it. I think everybody else is Pennsylvania. There's so many people.
I would like to state one quote from your Instagram post, if you remember. So this Instagram post is on the Father's Day. So you mentioned, Happy Father's Day, Dad. Love being kid, number 5. And you're a star. In the parentheses, your nickname for me. Can I ask you your nickname?
My dad started calling me Rez when I was a little girl. And so I went by Rezi Ruda, Rez. And I only let people that were close to me call me Rez because it was my dad's special nickname for me. But when I started performing, there would always be a bouquet of roses in my dressing room. And my father would have a note card attached that said, "To my star." And so I don't know, but for any kid growing up in a big house where it's really easy to get lost and invisible, to have that kind of individualized attention was magical. Magical. So I was Rezi and I was his star. I still am.
Did you ever crave for individualized attention in your childhood?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, 8 kids and we're Irish Catholic recovering. I always tell people I'm a recovering Irish Catholic.
What do you mean by that?
My mother had 5 kids in 6 years, and I was the 5th. And so we're all very close in age. We're about 1 to 2 years apart. And if you can imagine, there were 8 teenagers in the house at one point, and it was mayhem. And so what I did was I kind of retreated into my own little world and would write songs and poetry. And I found my attic was a magical escape for me. And I would go up there and I would rehearse. I would practice monologues and I would do my dance up there and I would paint and I would jam out with my little brother who played guitar and I sang songs. And I just escaped there because to try to be seen and heard in this group, in this tribe, was just overwhelming. And so I'm grateful today that I had an escape and I had a place to go, but I kind of retreated into myself, into my creativity.
How was your relationship with your parents, especially with your mom and with your other siblings, if you're open to talk about that?
Yeah, I just was able to record a Christmas carol with my brother Joe, who's a year older than me. And the joke he used to tell people when we were younger that we were twins, but he was smarter, so he got pushed ahead a grade. And I remember thinking, what the heck? But in hindsight, I laugh really hard. We have always busted each other so bad. And so my father started performing this Christmas carol as a one-man show. In 1981, he went up to Gray Towers in Milford, Pennsylvania, and started performing it to raise money to buy his kids, his tribe, his 8 children Christmas presents. Because as you can imagine, it was just really tight. And so that became a tradition. It was a total hit, and people made his one-man show part of their Christmas tradition, our family included. And so eventually my dad and my brother started doing it as a 2-man show because just carrying the show on his shoulders was a lot, right? My dad is a little bit older. Mm-hmm. And then Dad finally retired in 2010. And instead of letting the show just disappear, I came on board and proudly represented the first Plummer female to tell the story. And my brother and I have been doing it ever since. And so we just got to spend the weekend together recording this in a studio, and the laughter and the giggle fits that ensue, the inside jokes and just the banter and just the busting of the chops, I wouldn't replace it for anything. There's a real love there. There's also a lot that we've all survived growing up with so many siblings. It wasn't always easy. There was a lot going on, if you can imagine 8 teenagers under one roof, right?
I grew up with only one elder brother, and unfortunately he died 6 years ago, so I don't have siblings now, so I can understand to some extent the love and the sufferings and then recovery.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Do you have any memorable story from your teenage or adolescent years?
Oh my God. So the best part of my story is that 15 years old, I was at a theater camp. I got a scholarship called ETC. Shout out to Ann Klotz and everybody else that went there, which was an incredible experience. But while I was up there, the guy I was dating cheated on me with my friend. And something switched in me. And I came home from that theater camp and I was done being good. And I had already had just the angst and the anger of a normal 15-year-old. I don't know if every 15-year-old feels that, but I mean, it was me against the world. And Tori Amos was my, background music at all times in my Walkman, and Tool and Korn and just like, angry music. And so I came home, and my memory is from 15 to 20 years old. I let a cute boy shave all my hair off. I pierced my own nose, completely traumatized my little sister, started wearing combat boots with my Catholic school uniform, and just started smoking cigarettes and started getting into a whole lot of stuff. But I was done being good. And so it was me against the world for 5 years. And thank God I got off that runaway freight train going 300 miles heading straight for a brick wall, because it was a shit show. And it was painful and it was loud. But 20 years old, the brakes screeched. I got off the crazy bus and I entered a new way of living, which required growing up. And I've been doing that. I've been trudging that road a day at a time since.
I would like to add a few more things over here. And I learned this while doing the preparation for this recording. I will quote, "When I hit my bottom with drugs and alcohol at age 20, and the challenges I faced as an adolescent and recovery, could you explain or elaborate more on your experience between 15 and age 20 with your drugs and alcohol?"
Yeah, they were really, really helpful in me not feeling anything. And they were extremely productive. And every time I took them, they did exactly what I needed them to do, which was numb me out from feeling anything, until the day when they stopped working. And my life was a complete mess. And anyone that had tried to help me or be close to me was so far away, because I had pushed everybody away, that I had no other choice than to look at myself. Because up until that point, I blamed everybody and everything. If you had all these siblings, you would drink and drug too. And if you had this crazy family, you would... I was a big blamer. I love to point the finger outside of myself. And what happened was, at age 20, I had a moment where I found myself in a drug den and almost getting killed. And the night had started with me just drinking wine with a couple of friends, and it ended up there. And so at that point, I was able to get out of that apartment building by the grace of something. And I remember thinking that night, holy shit, this has nothing to do with my parents. This has nothing to do with my siblings. This has to do with me making a decision to start drinking earlier in the night. And then all bets are off. My best thinking once I start drinking or drugging is I end up in a crack house. Like, you can't argue with those facts. And so at that point, I realized, I was like, this is it. I can't do this. I'm going to die. And I actually didn't want to die. I wanted to live. And I had never felt that way before, because I was so armored with me against the world, my pain, my story. And I'm not discounting my pain and my story and things that I've gone through growing up, but the way I was trying to deal with it was going to kill me faster than anything. And so when I say I got off the crazy bus, that's exactly what I meant. I put it all down. I asked for help, and I was brought to a treatment center, and I started to learn what exactly, I was dealing with. So,
what kind of treatment center was that?
It was in Pennsylvania. It was called Clearbrook Manor, and it was on the top of a mountain in Pennsylvania. And I remember being 20 years old, emotionally like 11 years old. And I was one of the youngest kids there. And there's a really cool thing that happened there. Can I tell you the story?
Please.
So when I was up there, I was terrified, as anybody in the grips of addiction that hits that crossroads knows what it feels like to be at that place where you're either going to go right and keep doing what you've always done and get what you always got, or you're going to go left, but you have no idea what that road looks like. So it's terrifying. So I showed up to treatment terrified, but I won't show anybody fear. I have a really, really thick armor protecting me from how scared I actually am being alive. And so my nickname in rehab was Rage. And I thought I was really tough, 90 pounds soaking wet, 5'5", really intimidating. And so I'm in this group therapy session a couple times a week, and I go in and I sit down, and everybody else is like in their 30s or 40s, 50s maybe. And they're all talking about their partners and their children and probation officers and children's service. Just all this stuff I can't identify with. And so I'm just being super obnoxious. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm, sighing really loud, just being obnoxious. And so the counselor comes in. He's in his early 70s. He sits down, he starts the group, and I'm still, doing my passive-aggressive stuff. All of a sudden, I hear from the counselor, am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
I hear from the counselor, who the fuck do you think you are? And I remember looking around the group, and I snorted laughing because I thought to myself, who just got called out? Who just got, right? And so then he repeats himself. He says, who the fuck do you think you are? And then I lock eyes with him, and he's looking at me, and everybody else in the group is looking at me. And I look behind me because there's no way he can possibly be talking to me. He's talking to me. And he repeats himself and he says, Thérèse, the last time I opened up your chart, you know what I saw? A drug addict and an alcoholic who, if she doesn't change her attitude and her behavior, is going to leave this place, go right back to the same people, places, and things, is going to drink, and is going to die. You could have heard a pin drop. Everybody was staring at me and the counselor, and I was livid. No one had ever called me out like that. And so the thought in my head said, pick up your chair and chuck it at the counselor so you can save face. But I did what I always do, and I kicked the chair, and I ran away. I ran out of the treatment center, and I was in a rage. I was in such a rage, and I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't see anything. My brain was nonstop. F this place, F this counselor. They'll give anybody a degree. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to sue. And I am walking so fast. I am leaving this treatment center. I am going to sleigh ride down the mountain on my butt. If that's what it takes, I'll hitchhike. It doesn't matter. I'm out of here. And then all of a sudden, I hit something. Now, nothing is there, but it feels as if my body slams into a wall. And I stop. And I'm breathing really heavy. And I stand still for 6 seconds. And I see my breath coming out, the puff of air coming out, and I hear my breathing really heavy. And I'm looking around, and it's December 7th or something, and it's been snowing, and everything is covered with white snow, and there's no sound. There's nothing, no horns, no nothing. And my gut gets really hot. And this thought comes through my head and it says, go back inside. Stop running away. And so I went back inside, and the counselor is standing there. He's waiting for me. And he said, are you done? And that was 24 years ago. And I was done that day. And I share that story because, again, I may have had a really crazy night of starting the night drinking with White Zinfandel and ending up in a crack house. Yeah, that's super dramatic. That's super colorful. That's super Hollywood, right? My moment when I chose to change was on the top of that mountain. When I started running away and I was going to do what I've always done, which is blame everybody, go back to doing what I always did in order to not feel anything, and it's everybody else's fault. And instead, because something really freaking adores me in the universe. I was stopped in my tracks and given a choice. And I chose to go left. And because of that, my life has completely changed. And I've been sober for 24 years. I never had a legal drink because I got sober before I turned 21. And it's been an amazing journey.
You are a master storyteller. So did you always want to be an actor, a storyteller while growing up?
I don't know. I wanted to be so many things. I diagnosed myself with ADD because everything excited me. Painting and singing and writing and acting. And I think I chose the acting more because my dad was so supportive of that and was like so encouraging of that. And it was fun, but I think I've always just wanted to be creative. And when I went to college when I was sober, I studied psychology and I was able to work with kids for about 5 years. And I was able to incorporate all the creativity and drama therapy and just who I am creatively as a person into helping them. And that was amazing. And then at about 26, I was like, well, if I don't give this a shot to pursue this professionally, I can always go back to school, but I think there's like a window for women. We got to still be a little bit cute. It's such a shame. But so I dropped school. I deferred from my graduate program in Boston for expressive therapy, and I came to New York City to pursue acting professionally. And I was 26.
Do you feel that storytelling craft can be cultivated, or this is innate talent?
I think it's both. I think there's a craft that there's techniques that can be taught. I just did a panel with Scott Brick, who had mentioned some of the 4 core techniques that a voice actor can use in order to enhance and bring a story to life, which I think is really helpful and anybody can learn. I also think, I do. I think there's an innate gift and talent to tell a story. I think that's just, and I got to tell you, from when I started this 15 years ago to where I am today, I've changed with every project I've done. I think the most important thing I've learned is to slow down and really tell the story.
Going back to your teenage years, what advice would you give to a teenager who might be struggling with anxiety, depression, or any suffering?
First of all, I cannot tell you how moved and honored I am that I'm able to answer this question. I wasn't supposed to survive the way I was living from 15 to 20. I had no goals to live past age 20. I figured that was totally long enough to be alive on the planet. I was good. My solution was to just check out permanently. And if I could check out with a really good high or drunk, awesome. And in hindsight, what I would have robbed myself and everyone else around me from had that actually happened would have been such a shame, right? So what I want to say to you out there, if you're struggling, if you feel alone, lost, first of all, it would be weird if you didn't. I just want to validate that. I want to say that however you feel, it's okay. I grew up having big, big feelings. So instead of being sad, I went into despair. And instead of being happy, I was elated. And instead of being frustrated, I was beyond, right? And I always thought I was too much for this world until I found creative outlets. Until someone put a paintbrush in my hand or put a pen in my hand or threw me a blank page on a computer and was like, go, write, create, tell a story, tell anything. And all of a sudden I had an outlet for all that stuff that was talking to me inside my head and my heart. And I had a canvas, and it could be in any medium. Doesn't have to be in one or the other, can be in all of them. But let it out. Let it out in a constructive, beautiful way. Don't turn it in on yourself. I had a woman say to me when I ended up in my first, getting emotional, when my best idea to deal with my pain was to try to kill myself, and I ended up in the emergency room because thank God I didn't succeed. I had a woman come to me who was a counselor, and she looked me in the eye and she said, "You don't even know who you are yet. You're trying to kill someone you haven't even met yet." And I didn't understand what she said for about 5 years, but I understand it today. You are growing and you're evolving and you're changing, and it's painful and it's awesome and it's just everything. Please just keep opening your mouth and keep creating and keep finding an outlet for it. It's gonna be okay.
Thank you for sharing your truth, Therese. I would like to ask you about your current grounding practices. How do you practice letting it go? What mindfulness practices or any practices do you have now these days?
I am a huge fan of Sarah Blondin on Insight Timer. She puts me to sleep so that my brain can slow down a little bit and reminds me to stay on my team. I also like Corey Muscara, who has these little 5 to 7 minute practicing human talks. Do you know Corey?
I approached him for the podcast a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's great. And I'm learning to just pause. I think that's the greatest word in my life today, is when it gets really amped up and it gets really intense. It's usually my ego driving the bus. And what I need to do is pause, put on the brakes, pause, go make a cup of tea, just remove myself from wherever I am and just take a couple deep breaths. A lot of times I am a huge Hudson Valley fan. I used to live in Beacon, and I will just get in my car with my dog and go up to the mountain that I've hiked since I was 26 years old. And I will hit that trail and I will leave it all behind. And when I get to the top of that mountain, sometimes I scream it out. Sometimes I throw some rocks with intentions. But when I climb back down that mountain, I am free. I am free and I am breathing and I am like, okay, let's do this, girl. And I'm back on my team.
You actually have a video on your Instagram, if you remember that. Can you walk us through that? You mentioned in that video, because it is just too much for a long time. It is just too much. Letting it go with both hands. Everything is gonna be okay. Would you mind walking us through that narration?
Yeah, I was able, just acknowledging that this year has been a lot, but even before this year, sometimes it's just too much. It's just too much. So lace up your hiking boots, put on your sneakers, get outside. If it's a walk, if it's a run, if it's climbing a mountain. And when you get to the top and when you get wherever it is you are, just open both hands, not one, both, and let it go. Let it go and don't take it back. And if you do take it back, which is totally human, let it go again. And just allow all of this stress and anxiety and frustration and craziness, especially of this past year, just let it go and get back on your team and know that no matter what you're doing in this life, it's enough. You are enough and you are okay.
Therese, you mentioned about tea in your moments of pause. What is your tea brand?
Ooh, what is my tea brand? Oh my God, what is that brand? I buy the ones, they're like 3 little tins that are stacked on top of each other. And one is like breathe easy, clean, simple. I don't know what the brand is. It's upstairs. Oh God. I don't know what it is, but they're amazing. And I have one right now for like wellness. And then there's one for weight loss, which is silly, but it's got like the cinnamon kind of stuff in it. Just kind of helps your metabolism go. Because believe it or not, I'm old now. I thought I'd be 20 forever. This is such a bummer. But I'm 44 now, so I gotta drink stuff to help the metabolism go.
You find a lot of gratitude in your work, and I've seen that. I have read that at so many places that you are so grateful for many, many things. And I would love for you to walk us through some of the things that you're grateful for in 2020.
This is such a good question. I am grateful that I have been able to continue to tell stories, because I am so grateful for an incredible partner who came downstairs into the basement and built from scratch a custom home studio that I'm talking to you from right now, and has allowed me to continue working in a time where so many people, my husband included, their jobs were compromised, were put on holds, were just crazy. And I'm I sobbed like a baby. No one has ever done anything like that for me before. I am grateful that I can continue telling stories and sharing my experience, strength, and hope here and in other venues to just be a positive light in the universe. And my last thing is I'm especially grateful that in spite of losing over 300,000 people to this pandemic, and my friends having whole new realities without parents because of this pandemic, that this year has allowed me to sit still, be still, and reevaluate what's really important in my life and start living that truth.
You mentioned that storytelling is the balm that is healing humanity. I want to ask you something, and before that, I want to add one line, one sentence over here. Every time a show or play or project ends, there is a small depression until the next set of characters enter and set up shop in my mind and body. What do you mean by that? Can you explain it?
As an actor, I become really good friends with these stories and with these characters, and some I fall in love with. And I remember when I was recording The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey, I fell deeply in love with each character in that story. And being able to bring that to life, it was so connected to my heart and my mind. And when it ended, there was an ache, there was a hole. But what I've been able to do is say goodbye, derobe. You kind of physically stand up and kind of imagine that you're taking a whole caftan or a garment off of your entire body. And then you let go, like I just said, with both hands until the next set come in and you get to meet them. But you never forget them. They're friends you never forget. I'm still friends with the characters from that story, as well as others. And I feel so lucky for that. I guess that's why I really enjoy my solitude, because I'm never truly alone. There's always a full group of characters keeping me company. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. What did you learn from that book narration?
From The Snow Child?
Yes.
What did I learn? I learned that fairy tales are for grown-ups. Yeah. That there's no age. I mean, some of them are marketed towards kids, but I don't have my own kids. I have a stepson who's beautiful, but he's grown. He's 20 years old. And I also have tons of nephews and nieces. And I enjoy the books that they read, I think sometimes more than they do. But The Snow Child was a story about a couple who wasn't able to have a child. And they built a snowman, a snow child, and magically she came to life. And I don't want to give away too much, but the way this author was able to weave sentences and words together and descriptions and characters, it was such a gift to tell this story. It felt like a symphony. I felt like part of a symphony. I felt like part of a collaboration, and it was just, I don't know if I'm putting it in the right words. It felt effortless at times because I was so immersed in the story. It was just such a gift. What I learned is some stories will stay with me for the rest of my life.
In 2020, you were awarded as Audie Award for your work on the multicast, The Only Plane in the Sky, an oral history of 9/11. I have not read or listened to this book, but I'm curious to ask you, what lessons did you learn from the oral history of 9/11, or anything that you learned from this project?
I am extremely proud to have been a part of this project. I gave voice to people that are no longer with us. And I never for 1 second took that for granted. It was a sacred experience. It was a very emotional experience. My director, Scott Sherritt, and I had to stop a couple times because it was just so emotional. A lot of my recording was the 911 call from the towers. And to just know that there's families out there today that still have to go through that every year, that anniversary, but not every day of missing and not having that person in their life. I was honored. It was a gift, and it felt like a complete act of love and service to the families. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning about my career. Yes, it's a career, and yes, I get paid, and yes, it's a job, but at the end of the day, it's love and service. I am serving humanity by sharing these stories. And the fact that I get to do that, I'm not sure how it happened, but I'm going to stay on the train as long as they'll have me, because it's a gift. It is quite a gift.
Would you mind giving us a 30-second demo or trailer of 911 calling 911 from the World Trade Center tower from that project?
I actually can't because it's copyrighted and I can't share it outside of I can give maybe an example of another audiobook.
Yes. Yeah, I would love that.
But I can't do that. I should have prepared something. Okay. Hidden victims. Here we go. When Connolly didn't speak for 3 beats, Sylvia chimed in. "The cash graph only tells part of the story here," she said. "You can't discuss declining ad sales without looking at circulation." "That's true," Connolly said. "And mathematically, even though we have a population explosion in our biggest circulation areas, circulation has steadily declined since long before any of us were ever here. That's the immediate problem at hand." "Join the club," Grant Parker said. "I'm sorry?" Connolly's arms folded across his chest as he addressed our sports editor. So that's like 3 different voices. Maybe that's something? I don't know. It's pretty...
Yes, that's great. I want to ask you about your morning routines. What do you do when you wake up in the first 60 to 90 minutes of your morning?
Yes. So I wake up and I have a new dog. So I take him to the dog park and I come home and I work out. And then I'll go maybe sometimes to a meeting. And then I will take a hot shower, do all my vocal warm-ups, grab my coffee, my water, tea, whatever else I need. And then I will head into my studio and I will connect with my remote engineer through Zoom or Source Connect. And I will start my day telling a story.
What are your vocal exercises?
Oh, they're hysterical. My husband... Okay, I'll try to do one here. Well, a lot of them is, I realized after about 7 years consistently of being an audiobook narrator, there's muscles in my jaw that I didn't even know existed and my tongue. And I was getting like horrific headaches and jaw aches. And I went to a myofascial release specialist. And the guy taught me how to release the muscle tension in the back of my mouth and also with my tongue. And so I've been able to talk a lot longer and do stuff, but I'll do some diaphragm breathing exercises like and then I'll do some tongue twisters like what did it do to die today at a minute or two to two, a thing distinctly hard to say but harder still to do, for they'll beat a tattoo at a quarter to two at a two, and the dragon will come when he hears the drum at a minute or two to two today at a minute or two to two. And I'll do that about 6 times.
I think I need that. So where can you find this online?
The warm-ups? Oh,
Yeah.
if you just Google vocal warm-ups, I've just compiled a list of different things. And also I got some from my acting classes in college.
What books have you gifted the most or have inspired you the most? And this question is from Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans.
Oh, what books have inspired me the most? I just recorded a book. So I love my nonfiction. I love my fiction. I love my Robyn Carrs, and, having done all of Virgin River and then seeing the seasons 1 and 2. Okay. On Netflix. That's been super fun. The books that inspire me the most, I got to record this year for Penguin Random House, and it's called What Girls Need: How to Raise Bold, Courageous, and Resilient Women by Marissa Porges. I think I'm saying that right. Oh, God. I hope I am. This woman is in charge of, she's the head of a school, an all-girls school, the Baldwin School. The Baldwin School outside of Philadelphia. And this woman is my hero. Okay. She was in the U.S. Navy and served as a counterterrorism expert in Afghanistan and a cybersecurity advisor in the Obama White House. I mean, I wrote to her after I finished recording her book, and I said, okay, first of all, you need your own Top Gun movie. Like, you are a badass. You are my hero. But also, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing with, raising the next generation of women to be bold, courageous, and resilient. Like, that's exactly it. That's what we need. So that was a really inspiring record for me.
By the way, I would love to tell you that I'm a fan of your Virgin River book. So, yeah, thank you so much for giving so many different amazing voices to Paige, Preacher, and much more. And the way you use your voice to Paige was very emotional to me personally. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're so welcome.
And you have a testimony from one of your listeners on Virgin River series. Can I read that?
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to tell you how much I love your work. When I was in a deep, dark hole of depression earlier this year, I discovered your audiobooks, starting with the Virgin River series. I just love your voice to begin with, and how you breathe life into the characters and stories of Virgin River, Thunder Point, and now Sullivan's Crossing. I spent countless hours listening to your work, and on some days it was all that kept me going. So, Therese, I want to ask you, what do you do to keep yourself going in the tough moments of life?
What the best thing I've done for myself in these last 24 years is I've built a really amazing support system. People that I give love and hope to, and can also give it back to me. And so when I'm in the dark places, which I have gone to, like everybody else this year, and I really did. I had about 2 weeks there that got really, really, really dark and depressed. I reached out and I said, help, please help me. And I got help, and they listened and they encouraged. And that's the thing. And that's what I want to tell anybody out there. You're not alone. Even if you need to email me or call, I can remind you, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're all in this together. I know we may be physically alone at times. We may be sitting there by ourselves. And so you can be like, yes, I am alone, but I promise you, you're not. Just a click away or an email away or a phone call away, reach out. And that's what I did. And that's what brought love and hope back into my heart so I could keep going. And the saying, this too shall pass, that just kept playing in my head over and over again. I was like, okay, we're here. We're in a dark place. We're in a depression. It's going to pass. I don't know when, but we're just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. We're going to keep going into our booth. We're going to keep telling stories. We're going to keep feeding ourselves. We're going to keep trying to go to sleep. like a little baby, right? Like a parent taking care of a little child. And then I woke up a couple weeks later and I felt hope again and like brightness. And I said, okay, we did it. We got through that. So that's what I do. And again, I go out into nature. I make sure that I do something physical so that I can just feel the fresh air on my face and be reminded like the world is so much bigger than the narrative between my ears. The narrative between my ears can get really depressing and dark. If I go outside into nature or just, change my view somehow, I can get through. And I have gotten through, and I will get through.
Asking for help and support is a challenge for a lot of people. It used to be a hell of a challenge for myself personally, but I'm still learning to ask for help. I want to ask you, what is your support system look like? Do you have friends, family? Who are they?
Yeah, I have a couple people that have also shared this journey of recovery with me. I have a therapist. I have a group of female narrators that I group text with daily, and we keep each other afloat, and we laugh, and we vent, and we share, and we ask for advice, and we support each other and lift each other up, and we help each other get jobs when we're not working as much. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful group of women. And it's myself and 4 other women. So our nickname are the Lady Fingers. And those are my girls. That's my crew. And I would not be here without them. And so, it's become kind of cliche and, sisterhood and all this kind of stuff. But it is, thank God this movement is occurring, because there is nothing like a couple of really good, strong women having your back. Nothing like it. And so that's who I go to.
You can count on me in your support system.
Oh, thank you.
In the preparation of this conversation, I learned that you want to collaborate with Elizabeth Gilbert, Brené Brown, and Cheryl Strayed. Why is that?
Because they're queens. They're absolute queens and amazing women, and are sharing just such positive, beautiful messages. And Cheryl Strayed's story in Wild, I related to so strongly. The circumstances were individual to her story, but the feelings portrayed in that film, especially with Reese acting out, if there's an audiobook I could ever re-record or just have a chance to get into, it's that one. But it's women like that are who I aspire to be, and who I aspire to just to share those kind of messages, to have that bold, courageous resiliency to be like, yeah, I have a story to tell, and it's actually really messy, and I almost died, and I made choices that were really unflattering and really unglamorous, and I'm going to tell you about this story because it might give one person hope, and I know it gave many people hope, myself included, but it also gave me hope that maybe where I come from and my story can help somebody too. And then Brené Brown talking about vulnerability and, the power of that. It's phenomenal. It's everything that I was taught to kind of swallow down and not admit to. They're reinforcing and reteaching myself and so many other people. No, it's okay. That's actually where your power is. And Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, and everything else that she's done, they're rock stars. They're my rock stars. They're just beautiful, beautiful, powerful, awesome women. I'd love to talk to them someday, or have them talk to me, or just, I don't even know, see them passing by and wave. And be like, hey.
Yeah, I found this recent Twitter post. I gave myself permission to leave myself alone today. It is going pretty well. And Therese, do you have any closing thoughts or anything that you want to share to our listeners?
I'd like to say to every single person, have a wonderful holiday, whatever it looks like. I know we're all apart, And I don't know about you, but that's been kind of a blessing to just keep it really simple and not get so caught up in the stress of the holiday. But also, more importantly, just stay on your team. Please stay on your team. You are a beautiful, unique, awesome individual. There's only one of you on this planet. Stay on your team. You're enough. You're okay. Leave yourself alone. Leave yourself alone. That's all I got.
Love it. And where do you want our listeners to find you? Online or wherever?
So you can find me at www.theresplummer.com. That's my personal website, my professional website. I'm on Twitter at tplummer76. I'm on Instagram at Plummer Therese. And I'm on Facebook at Thérèse Plummer. I have a professional page. It's like Thérèse Plummer, voice artist / actor. Can you find that? And just
we'll find it and put it in the show notes.
And LinkedIn, Thérèse Plummer, whatever. We're everywhere.
And I would like to conclude this conversation with one of your favorite quotes from Helen Keller. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. So, Therese, thank you so much for having this heart-touching conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode today. If you did enjoy this, please subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you can visit https://nishantgarg.me, NISHANTGARG.me. You can also share this episode with your loved ones to help them live a fulfilled life. You are not alone in this journey. We all struggle in life. There is no shame in talking about it. I go through my highs and lows. I get depressed, and these practices help me in living a resilient life. You can also do this. You got this. Don't judge yourself. You are doing the best you can. And thank you so much again.